Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of the Bet It Right show, which hopefully provides you with all the information you need to help you bet better. So make sure you like, subscribe to this podcast, tell all your friends about the Bet It Right show, and most importantly, head to betitright.com for all your football information. As always, Dean Selvey is my partner in crime for the show, and Dean, once again, the Bet It Right prompts, that has had a hugely successful week, because this week, I think it's a record plus £400, £400.78 level stakes profit to a £2 stake, which is, again, a really successful week for the prompt. So it's a must follow account if you want to make some money on the football.
Yeah, 17.5% profit, highest winning price at 17.5. Another great week for the prompts, guys. And two markets just for Bet It Right users to keep an eye on. They've been very successful over the last week. First half result, 1x2 and correct score. Both had over 100 prompts each across those 7 days. And each of those markets returned just under 30% profit per market. I think one was about 27.8, one was 28.6. So yeah, follow the prompts page, follow the insights page, and you should be making some cash.
Definitely. You've got some suggestions for us as well as we go through what will be a busy weekend with some leagues around Europe rounding off their season. We've also, of course, got the FA Cup final. We'll have a full and extensive. It is also going to be exclusive as well.
Always exclusive.
Because no one's heard Dean talk about it before, but it's an extensive preview of the FA Cup final, which we'll get to in a moment. And with the Premier League title race still somewhat undecided, although I think it's pretty much City's, but there is a key game for them against West Ham. We'll preview that in the Premier League preview and the tactics room as well. But to kick things off, as always, the kit room. And Dean, you are in last week's very, very handsome Port Vale kit. And getting it right was Rob Infinity, Neil Roberts and Scudder85. So well done to you who commented on the YouTube link for the show.
Port Vale,
with the
again, like you said, a lovely kit.
I think that's, as I said last week, it's my favourite of the series. That I love it.
You keep changing. Cool. You strike me as someone that maybe changes their mind every week, though, Ollie. Because you had that poor other kit that I've got here. He's in the corner crying now.
Recency bias. Oh yeah,
exactly.
No, that's my favourite next week. That's my favourite. No, I do like that. I think it's very, very cool. So the two for me were the very sort of colourful. Which kit was? I think it was in South America.
Yeah, I think it's from Argentina.
Argentina, and that one.
Yeah.
But who knows? This week might be my favourite. What do you got for me?
Well, I've got a feeling that it might not be your favourite because you strike me as either a classic or a crazy, and this one kind of sits somewhere in the middle. But here we go. I'm going to give you a little bit of Wonder Woman this week to get our shirt going. Goodbye to Port Vale. Good to see you, and hello to our new shirt. Boom. Here we are. A very different shirt this week, Ollie. What are you saying?
Do you know what? I don't. My first reaction was shock and disgust. I don't hate it though. I think it will be a grower.
Well,
do you
the
like
good
it?
thing about it, you know, it's a classic shirt. There's not loads and loads of stuff on it. What it does have is a nice little collar, so you can play pure Eric Cantona, like 95, go karate kicking into some Crystal Palace fans. So I might just leave that up for the rest of the show. But yeah, I'll give you some facts as we always do from our friends at Surprise Shirts. Thanks so much for sending this one over. A very, very old club, German club, founded in 1905. Ollie, you'd like this. They're a sports club that offers football, field hockey, figure skating, and some cue sports. I know you love a bit of snooker.
I do, yeah, big fan.
And 12,000 members. So one of these kind of classic German clubs that covers loads and loads of different sports. An interesting fact about this club is that once upon a time in their history, they were relegated and had 2 players suspended for life because of 10 games in the Bundesliga had been highlighted as being basically rigged through bribery, and they were implicated in 3 of those games. So they're quite famous for a big match fixing scandal.
Interesting. Right, as always, comment on the YouTube comments on this show. Head there. Watch the show and then comment on it. So good.
Ollie, are my collars up or collars down for today? What do you think?
Do you know what? I used to like collars on football shirts, but I've got off them as I've got older. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it should stay down, right?
I just don't think it's comfortable when you play and it's like rubbing on your neck and
Well, yeah. I mean,
Obviously.
I trained on Monday for the first time in probably 10 years with the team that I coach here in Spain.
How'd you get on?
Well, probably the best player on the pitch, but it's not about how I got on, it's about how my body got on.
And the most humble player on the pitch.
And it's 4 days. The reason I said that is because I was wearing my polo shirt that I coach in, and my assistant coach is Spanish, and he wanted a specific number, and a player pulled out injured. So I was like, yeah, look, I'll train. And I had a polo shirt on. So I actually did pop my collar for the session. And you're right, it is annoying. But yeah, my body's in bits 4 days later, and I'm still hobbling around.
I'm actually playing on Saturday at Plough Lane, AFC Wimbledon Stadium, for
very nice
a charity football match with Wimbledon legends. So I think I'm going to be man-marked by Chris Perry.
So I take it you're playing centre forward?
Well, I mean, they don't know that yet, but that is the position I play. But it's been probably, I don't know, 10 years since I played a serious-ish 11-a-side match, so I'm going to be terrible. My body will.
Since you played proper 90 minutes, like actual proper acceleration.
Yeah, in front of people, and when it's like you don't want to be an idiot, you know. Now I just go there and I essentially press R1, L1, just play FIFA tricks.
Do like on Street Fighter, just press them all at the same time.
I'm a real life sort of hit every button on the controller and see what happens.
Please tell me, for the Bet It Right users and for me, that this is going to be filmed and we're going to be able to see it somewhere.
I think there will. Yeah, I'll only obviously post and share wonder goals, but there might be cameras there. Anyway, I'll let you know next week how we get on.
Do you remember that clip that came out a few years ago? Darryl the Barrel. He scored a hat trick. It was like some sort of non-league charity game.
No.
So after the show, I want you to Google Darryl the Barrel on YouTube and watch him score his hat trick. And I can kind of see you a little bit like that, but just a trim, tall version of Darryl the Barrel.
All right, I'll look that up. We've got a lot to get through before then, though, because
we have
stream this week. What have you got? West Ham versus City.
Well, I was going to do West Ham versus City, but I've actually changed my mind. I think we should look at Chelsea-Liverpool as the tactics room game, because and this kind of came last night with Fabinho being ruled out through injury. The markets have shifted a little bit, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about that.
Okay, cool. So FA Cup final is going to be the focus of the tactics stream, and it is Chelsea versus Liverpool. And I think it's going to be a really good football match. Basically, it's live on BBC and ITV. Have to plug the employers, but you've got lots of ways to watch it. And are there lots of ways to approach it from a tactical point of view as well?
That was smooth, Oli. I like that. That was smooth.
Just came on freestyling.
Oh, well, that's what it's all about. Well, of course, this is a repeat of the League Cup final, the 0-0 and the famous Kepa penalty miss where he hit it into orbit, and multiple memes came out, especially after the stress that he put Sarri through in the previous cup final when he refused to be subbed and Caballero was ready and all that kind of stuff. Firstly, I wanted to look at the prices. In the League Cup final, the prices were a quarter and 2.25. Now, yesterday morning, the prices were a half a goal and 2.5. Now, when you think that final finished 0-0, I first thought, well, why are the prices getting bigger? They should be getting shorter. But then when you look back at the statistics from that game, it was actually a really open game, and overs was probably the right side. Loads of chances, very, very lively game. And I do think this final will be the same. Then last night, we get the news that Fabinho is going to miss the FA Cup final and hopefully be fit for the Champions League final. And the prices shifted again. Liverpool drifted a little bit to a quarter. And that's probably just smaller punters putting little stakes on and just moving the price. And I reckon closer to the weekend, it will start to go back to that half a goal market, which I think is about right. But I wanted to look at it from a tactical angle, because I do think that there could be some value in the goals when you look at how the teams might set up. So Chelsea's consistency since the Real Madrid defeat has been poor. Lots of players struggling with contracts. Obviously, the problems with Abramovich, that's really hanging over them, and people wanting to leave, and the Rudiger news and Christensen, and then having kind of lots of injuries around their three centre halves. Tuchel refusing to change his shape because he's so principled. And then you've got on the flip side of that, Liverpool's momentum towards potentially a treble or a quadruple. Like you said at the top of the show, probably more a treble now if they can win the Champions League final. So there's lots of kind of undercurrent there, alongside the fact that they've already played one cup final this season. Moving into tactics, Chelsea's 3-4-3. Their playing out from the back has been really inconsistent recently because of the changes in the first and second line and the personnel problems. Trevor Chalobah going in there and playing at centre half in the recent game against Leeds, along with Rudiger and Christensen. And because of that and Liverpool's aggressive press, I do think they can unsettle Chelsea there, force some turnovers and hurt them in transition with their front three. That's the first thing to look at. Now go to the Chelsea front three. Probably going to be Mount, Werner, Havertz, looking to receive either side of that pocket where Liverpool play their one CDM, which would have been Fabinho. Now, Fabinho is really, really good at breaking up counter-attacks, spotting those slide passes, screening the two centre-halves. Henderson might do that role, not as good as it, a little bit more dynamic, probably leaves his spot a lot more than Fabinho. So I do think there'll be space for receiving in between the lines and also those little runners down the sides of the two centre-halves with Trent and Robertson likely to be more advanced. So there's a couple of areas there. Now, going into Chelsea's back three, Marcus Alonso has been a real problem. Ben Chilwell has been injured for a while. Reece James came back. Azpilicueta back into the back three. So there's been a few little changes there, but that side's a real area of exposure for Liverpool. Now, normally, it might be Salah, it might be Mane. Salah was rested in midweek. Could be Diaz, who's looked unbelievable. But in transition, if they can get from that mid-block or that high press in down the sides of the three centre-halves, I think Liverpool could really expose Chelsea here. And Chelsea having this difficult season coming into this game, Liverpool's momentum, I do actually think that the market price, if it gets to 2.25, 2.5, is still going to be value. When you look at the statistics and the flow of the game in the first final, even though it finished 0-0, people might jump on that and say, well, it's going to be an unders game. But underneath that, the data, when you check out the website, the data from games and specifically that game would suggest that it might actually be an overs game. So my recommendation, FA Cup final, great day. One of my best memories as a kid is to have a look at the teams, watch how the market prices move towards kickoff and when the teams are announced, potentially an overs bet if the setups and that exposure is as discussed.
It's interesting, actually, because for all that Liverpool have some incredible players that score really, they're just world-class, world-renowned players, right from the keeper, Alisson, then you've got Van Dijk, Trent, Robertson on the left, these high-profile players, Thiago, then obviously their front players, Diaz as well as added in.
Playing, yeah.
But then when you take out a player like Fabinho and you see the impact he has on the market, he's almost the one that never gets talked about and yet is arguably one of, if not the most important player to what the whole thing does, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course, because when those fullbacks go, and they often both go, or they'll both be slightly advanced of midfield line, your two centre-halves and then that pivot in front is key to defending counter-attacks. Sometimes in the fullback channel, instead of the fullback releasing, that central midfielder will get out to that fullback position. Then the fullback will recover on the inside line to where the ball's going to end up. So he's really key, whereas Henderson's a little bit more kind of Roy of the Rovers, a little bit more, not Gerrard, but in that mould where he may drift a bit more, want to advance a bit more, which may leave them a little bit exposed in this game. And yeah, he's a massively important player. And you can see that yesterday, market moved 10 points after the news that he was out. So he's obviously a key player that can shift the market.
All right, well, let's turn our attentions to the Premier League, and we've switched around slightly. So it is West Ham City we're going to look at, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And I'll have to hold my hands up a little bit. A couple of weeks ago, when City kind of stumbled in the Champions League and lost, we were talking about it, and I said, they might have a bit of a hangover. They might struggle now in the league, and they just decided to score 5 goals in both games. So what the hell do I know?
KDB scored 4 from an XG of 0.83.
Oh, I mean, yeah, ridiculous. 17-minute hat trick, 4 goals.
Absolutely killed my FPL.
My brother, right?
We're in a league where we all put money in at the start. It's like a sort of betting league, and I was 30 points clear going into last week. 32 or something. My brother is now 48 points clear, having captained KDB.
Wow.
Absolute nightmare.
I bet there was a few texts shared when he scored,
He just kept texting me every goal going, wow. I was like, mate, get it quietly. Shut up.
Love it.
Sorry, I interrupted.
Well, because of recent form between these two teams and the importance of the game for both, really, this is just a massive game. And I was looking through the fixtures trying to find games. There's some games where it's nothing to play for, and there's probably some value in the goals. Maybe the Watford-Leicester game. Maybe there's some value Spurs-Burnley after last night's Arsenal doing an absolute Spursy and losing their minds. Rob Holding's wig doing some crazy stuff. But this game's huge for both teams. West Ham were, challenging for the Champions League. They had that big night against Lyon. Then they lose against Eintracht, with the Cresswell red card. And suddenly their season looks like it may end with nothing. 3 points behind United for the Europa League spot, who have played a game more. So they really need a result here. A little bit of boosted momentum with that 4-0 win against relegated Norwich. But then you look at City, we said, would they struggle after Real Madrid? 5 against Newcastle, 5 against Wolves, 3 points ahead. Obviously, KDB scoring those 4 goals. So they will want to stay front foot. They can't get a point here. They will want to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Now, when you look at it from a tactical angle, West Ham's best games come when they give up possession to the opposition and are allowed to break down the sides, in the spaces between the centre-halves and the fullbacks, which is where City will be a little bit vulnerable here with the injuries that they've got. Fernandinho playing centre-half the other night against Wolves. They will have that transition. Obviously, Diaz, Stones and Walker being out. City, players on the inside, very technical, lots of combination play, playing those little slide balls down the line, lots and lots of rotation. In and around West Ham's sort of box, Rice, Souček, whoever it is, Dawson, Zuma. In there, they can struggle with mobility when they're playing against teams with high technical levels. So I do think there's, again, some exposure for City there, who will want to dominate the ball, get on top of West Ham early, leave themselves potentially exposed, missing those players with pace. Now, when I looked at this, I thought, yeah, there's good enough there with the prices in the market to have a look at the goals. And the market is 3.0. The price for that is just over 1.9. But I do think there's good value there. Wait for teams, I would say, just to see what's happening with City. But I would say potential value in that game for over 3.0 on the goals.
Okay, good stuff. So that's the FA Cup final dealt with, Premier League looked at, and now we're going to go around Europe. There's final round of fixtures in the Bundesliga, which we'll talk about in a moment, because that could be an absolute bonanza of goals. So I'm looking forward to getting your thoughts and the stats on that. But do you want to take us around some of the fixtures you're looking at? Should we start in France? St Etienne, I think, is of interest.
As we get closer to the end of the season now, trying to find value in the market's difficult. So we've got one game from France, one game from Italy, and then, like you said, we'll talk about the Bundesliga. So Ligue 1, 2 games left. We've got St Etienne in 18th against our friends Reims, who, if it was Del Boy, he'd say Reims, but Reims. St Etienne, massive financial problems, fans in open revolt. They were 2-0 up in midweek, lost 4-2 to Nice, who we've talked about in recent weeks, challenging for the Champions League. They're 3 points from safety, and there's a 6-goal swing on the goal difference. So this is a huge game for them. But watching them in recent weeks and talking to our team that trade on that league, they just don't look like they care, which is weird. Second highest goals conceded all season with 74, and the most at home with 36. But there is an interesting fact in this game. They haven't lost at home against Reims since 1959, which is obviously a long time. Now, when you look at Reims, they've only scored 16 goals away from home, being very, very defensive in any game where it matters. So looking to secure that mid-table security that they have now. They've only conceded 20 as well. PSG have conceded 24, which gives you an idea of how good they've been defensively. So this game could be quite tight, but St Etienne have got to throw everything at the game to get the 3 points, which makes me think that it could go against the statistics and open up. Because of the to play for here, Reims mid-table security, they're actually plus 3/4 on the handicap because of the to play for. I think that's personally too big. So I would say that that is definitely value in the market, but think about the to play for St Etienne needing those 3 points to stay up. The other angle to look at is potentially over 2.5 goals. You wouldn't bet this if you look at Reims offensively and defensively, but when you throw in St Etienne, the fact that it's kind of just all over the place at the moment, I think there could be some value there as well. So an interesting game in Ligue 1.
Serie A, you've got Juve versus Lazio this weekend.
Yeah, Juve season. This season's just been a bit of a nightmare for them, and they're probably going to end the season without a trophy. They are going to end this season without a trophy for the first time in a decade, having lost the Coppa Italia in midweek into an extra time, 4-2. They also lost last weekend to Genoa, who have been a horrible, horrible side, bottom of the league. They lost 2-1. They're secured in that fourth spot. Lots and lots of players and fans unhappy about the style under Allegri, bit of like caveman football, very basic 4-4-2. Vlahovic has gone in there and only scored goals against the lower ranked team, so the fans are on his back. Will Dybala leave? And kind of still playing the old guard, Bonucci, Chiellini. So there's lots and lots of kind of unhappy faces at Juve. Now, on the flip side, you look at Lazio. They are fighting for fifth place, and they're not just fighting with any team, they're fighting with Roma. So to lose fifth place in that Europa League spot to their biggest rival and the club that they share a city and a stadium with would be an absolute nightmare. So I think that to play for momentum, mood is with Lazio in this game, and you can get them on the plus handicap, plus a quarter, at better than 1.8. So I do think that is value here, given all the factors around the game.
Okay, and now take us to the Bundesliga, where there's going to be goals, I think.
Maybe. Now the Bundesliga is famous for goals anyway. One of the most overs leagues in Europe, and especially as we get towards the end of the season. We talked about it last week. I said that Dortmund and Firth would just be 22 guys running around having a great time, and it ended up 3-1 to Dortmund. Now, typically at the end of the season, 2018-19 season, there was 41 goals. That included an 8-1, a 5-1, a 5-1, a 4-2. 7 out of the 9 games were 3 and over. 2019-20, 34 goals on the last day of the season. That was including a 6-1, 3 4-0s, and 8 out of the 9 games were 3 goals and over. Now, last season, 35 goals, including a 5-2, a 4-2, 7 out of the 9 games, 3 goals and over. Now, taking to the fact that the last 2 seasons have been interrupted with COVID, I'd like to go as the 41 goal as the reference, which is 2018-19. So what will happen this season? If you were to bet over 3 goals in all of the games in the Bundesliga, you'd get odds of around 56.3, which is obviously massive. But there are 2 potential games to remove which have big to play fors. And they are Stuttgart versus Cologne and Arminia Bielefeld versus Red Bull. Those 2 games are directly relegation versus Europe and Red Bull Champions League versus relegation. So I think those 2 may be a little bit tighter. So if you take those 2 games out, the odds go from 56 to 21. But I still think there's good value there. It's always around the 7, 8 or 9, 3 and over. And if you wanted to kind of be a bit crazier with it, take a look at some of the games where teams have been more overish, like your Dortmunds, and maybe go for over 3.5 or over 4. Get a really big odds acca and just hope that their games go crazy like they usually do.
Okay.
Now, the 2 games that I mentioned, I want to talk about one in more detail, which is Stuttgart versus Cologne. Stuttgart in 16th, Cologne in 7th. Stuttgart fighting relegation. Had a really good season last year, playing a really expansive 3-5-2, and they had Wamanganga Kuta playing right back, who was this amazingly kind of open and aggressive wing back. He did his ACL. Their season went a bit downhill from there, and this season they've really not been at it at all. Cologne on the flip struggled last year, having one of their best seasons in a long time this year, and fighting to get into that Europa League spot, currently in the Conference League spot. Now, Stuttgart average conceding 1.8 goals at home, and because of the to play for here, I think Cologne are great value at plus a quarter at better than 1.9. Now, there is to play for Stuttgart as well, but they've been fairly horrible this year, and I do think the quality and the momentum is with Cologne. So a little extra game there, Cologne on the plus handicap. But yeah, have a look at the Bundesliga. It could be an absolute bumper Bundesliga bonanza.
I love it. What a way
Freestyle.
to end.
We went
Anything
back to our Borussia Mönchengladbach bonanza Bundesliga, whatever it was, about 10 shows ago.
We've done a lot of shows since then. Dean, thank you very much for that, as always. FA Cup final weekend. Looking forward to it. And thanks for your thoughts, as always. Don't forget that the prompts page, which we said at the top of the show, £400 level stakes profit it returned this week, and I'm sure, fingers crossed, we can have another successful week. There's also information on the Better Right Insights page on Twitter, and get everyone heading to the betitright.com website for all the information that we discuss here. So, Dean, thank you very much. I think you're a football.
Oli, one final thing. We normally ask for people to comment on the YouTube channel, obviously, about the shirt. What I'd really love to hear as well from anybody that watches the show and anyone watches the clips, did anyone bet on Bristol Rovers cover the goal difference and get promoted with that 7-0 win?
If anyone did, yeah, that would be interesting. I'm fairly confident we might not get comments about that, because I'd be highly surprised if anyone did, but there might be someone out there. So yeah, good shout. If you did, let us know. Yeah,
and I want to know the odds as well and the stake, because just unbelievable. What football, you think you've seen everything and then up that pops, which is why we love the game.
It's madness, that, wasn't it? I was listening to it on the radio on the way home from work, and they're going, you wouldn't believe it, they've got 6, they've got 7. You know, it's crazy.
Well, that was it. And the thing is, Northampton were 3-0 up, right? So they needed to get 8. And then Northampton conceded, and then it was just 7. And then the fans come on the pitch, and the referee has to stop the game. And then the owner comes down, and they get on the microphone, please get off the pitch. And Joey Bartman's on the microphone, and then they finish the game, and they get promoted. Crazy scenes, crazy.
Mad. Dean, thank you as always. We'll see you next time on the Bet It Right show. Be lucky. Thanks, wherever you are. Enjoy FA Cup final weekend, and we'll see you next time here with us on the Bet It Right show. Take care.